Originally I was gonna try and record this video as like get ready with me of, doing my makeup and talking about setbacks and being frustrated with that and moving on and all that stuff. But I realized I'm not good at talking to the camera while I'm doing my makeup, so like I'd be so focused on colors that I would ramble, and which like I know I ramble in general, and that's kind of just the thing I do. But I decided, okay, I'll just finish my makeup and then sit down and record, which is what we're gonna do now. I started this year looking at, okay, what what do I want? And I I've talked before about how I grew up in a really religious home, right? Where it was the mentality was very much you either do the right thing or you go to hell. And it's if you go to the wrong college or you move to the wrong place or you talk to the wrong people, that will just completely ruin your life and you'll end up homeless and broke, and you'll you'll end up in hell ultimately. And so it also kind of just clicked for me as I was describing it. Like, no wonder I decided to just do nothing, because it's like I was raised to be so afraid of making the wrong decision that I decided to just not make a decision. And that's where my decision paralysis comes from. That explains so much, honestly, now that I see it that way. But I grew up with this extreme decision paralysis, and at the same time also this kind of expectation, and this is a character flaw, absolutely, of like expecting someone else to save me and waiting for someone else to solve my problems. I finally had to realize that's not going to happen. And no one can save me but myself, which is something people have tried to tell me over the years. It just finally clicked, which better late than never, I guess, right? So, yes, I've spent too long in my life expecting someone else to solve my problems and expecting someone in to swoop in and save the day, right? But and that's been one of the things I had to reckon through in 2005, is kind of unlearning that. And finally, at the end of the year, it finally clicked. And I finally stopped and I looked at, like, okay, what do I want? What will it take to get there? And kind of broke it down into manageable steps. And like the steps at the beginning are not the fun steps. Because I make no secret, like, I want to be a writer. I want to be an author. I want that to be what I do, writing and art. I can't create if I'm worried about how I'm going to pay the bills for each month. And it's like, if I'm at a point where I'm worried about stuff and I'm spiraling mentally, then I can't create. And so it's like, okay, then first I'm going to have to build stability. I need to separate from my mom, which means I need to be more financially independent, which means I'm going to have to actually work and focus on that for a while and focus on building that for myself and building my own stability instead of expecting someone else to do it. Um, Again, I know better late than never. At least I got here eventually, right? Right. So I I started this year like, I have a job. It's the same job I had when I was 19, although it's double the hourly rate and triple the hours from when I was 19. And I have the same job. I have another seasonal office position that's coming up. And I was like, okay, I'll make things work, this and that. And even at the end of December and beginning of January, I had a couple weeks off because the restaurant where I work is like dependent on high school students when they have lunch. And I'm like, okay, I I'm not working these 2 weeks. I'm not getting paid. Okay, fine. And then the way things worked out, it's I'm not getting paid for another 3 weeks because of how pay periods work. Fine. I'll I'll make that work, everything will line up. I'll get my rent and my bills taken care of and everything will work out. Focusing on that and telling myself, okay, we'll make it work, it might be difficult, but we'll make it work. And then I got sick this past week. And I usually work Monday through Friday. And then I had 2 weeks off. I went back for a week. I went back on the 5th. And then Saturday, I woke up sick. And I'm like, okay, hopefully this passes in 2 days. Hopefully it passes quickly, which it never does for me. Usually if I get sick, I'm down for 3 weeks, 2 or 3 weeks. I had to take 3 days off work. And I'm like, well, shit. Because it's one thing to not get paid for a few weeks. It's another thing to get paid less after those few weeks. So I'm out 3 days of pay. And I'm like, okay, this can still work. This can still... My tendency when I have setbacks like this is usually to panic and to start spiraling and just worrying about how am I going to make this work? How am I going to make this work? And when I sat down and I went through what I need to do and what it's going to take to actually improve my life, for lack of a better phrase. When I went through that, I'm like, okay, there's going to be points where this is going to be difficult. And it's one thing to know that on paper, right? And it's one thing to look at it and say, okay, yeah, I can handle that. It's a whole other thing to be in it. So I'm actually really happy with how well I've handled it so far. And I'm under no illusions that oh, this is just going to be the one rough bit and then things will get better and stuff like that and smooth sailing after that. No, I know things are still going to be fairly difficult and there's still going to be things that I have to deal with. But overall, I have handled this very well and I haven't spiraled. Because in the past, my pattern has been something will happen, something will go wrong, and it won't go the way I wanted it to or I hoped it would, and I will just completely spiral out, and that will lead to me feeling like I can't do anything and I'm a failure at everything and just, oh my god, why do I even try? And eventually I'll come back from that and eventually stubbornness will kick in and I'll be like, okay, I just have to work even harder. Problem is when I do that, I tend to burn out and then it just leads to a whole different spiral, which don't recommend that. But yeah, no, these last few weeks, this last week specifically has been okay, even the last few weeks, because like I said, I have this seasonal office job coming up and I've done this position before and I'm just actually I don't remember if I mentioned that in this version because I've tried recording this a few times. But yeah, I have this seasonal office position coming up and at first it was okay, I'll start in January. And then it was, oh, well, we won't actually need you until the end of January. And then second week of January, I get a call hey, you were scheduled for this week and you haven't shown up. And it's well, I did not receive any notification after I was told that by the manager, hey, we won't need you until later this week or later this month. And it's oh my god, I really hope this job is worth it because last year all it was just so much stress that completely threw off my equilibrium for the entire summer pretty much and the rest of the year. So I'm okay, I really hope this job is worth it this time. And now I'm not starting until February and I can't even see my schedule for that yet because the system is locked again, I really hope that job is worth it. I hope the money I make from it is worth it. I'm reminding myself that I'm doing this for a reason, right? And it's like, I can do this. It is difficult right now, but I can do it. And I'll make it work. And even if it means working too many hours a week for a few months, I will make this happen. I don't even know what point I'm trying to make aside from just kind of like getting this off my chest. Is like, this is where I am right now. And, I've set myself a goal that I want to do weekly videos for a set amount of time. And I also just increased that amount of time because I was like, okay, no, the original amount I was thinking was too short. I'm like, okay, no, if I'm going to give YouTube a genuine shot, it's going to have to be a longer period of time, which I'm not going to say what it is right now. I'm keeping that under my hat. But, I was like, okay, I will do this. I'll do weekly videos. I'll just have to make this work in between doing the 2 jobs and everything, even when things get busy. And, because I had several videos recorded ahead of time, and then I lost the footage, it's like, okay, I just lost that buffer. And now I have to re-record those and keep making new videos without that buffer that I had tried to build up. And it's like, okay, let's just figure this out. And then I got sick. And it's like sore throat, couldn't talk. So I had the books I want to read in 2026 video recorded, and I was able to put that up. It went up while I was sick. And I'm like, okay, I just have to hope that by the time the weekend comes around again, I'm gonna have my voice enough and that I'll be able to think clearly enough to record something, which, hi, here we are. It is Sunday, and I actually have tomorrow off because schools are closed. Another small setback. I'll be fine. And like, I will be. I know I'll be fine. It's just, it is that thing where it's like, little things come up, and I'm just like, okay, I just have to breathe through it, and I have to keep going. Which is kind of just, the whole point of this video is mostly just for me to talk about this. And to get it off my chest. And I'm not even going to pretend that I can give anyone advice on how to deal with this. But mostly what I want my videos to be right now is kind of just my thoughts and talking about stuff I'm going through and, slice of life, I guess. Eventually, hopefully I'll be able to talk about writing and stuff like that when I have updates on that. I am still planning to do a video on, like, why I unpublished my books and the whole thing with that, and I think I finally have kind of the angle I want to take with that. But anyway, I think I'm going to wrap this up here, and I'm actually going to go record another video because I need to rebuild that buffer. So the next video you see, I might have the same eyeshadow, but it's a really cool peacock eyeshadow, so I don't want to hear any complaints. Okay. Yeah, I think that's everything I've got to say on this. We'll see if this is actually usable once I edit it, but yeah. All right. Yeah, thank you for listening. I will be okay. I'm going to work through this. I just am learning how to work through this, and that's kind of the point. But yes, thank you for listening. I hope you're doing well, and until next time, stay safe, take care, and I hope to see you again soon. Bye-bye!